Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C race reviews. We're in Group 2 machinery and of course it's Fuji International Speedway, not raceway like I was saying in the strategy guide. And in these races I seem to get involved in an awful lot of fighting. So here is the settings for this one. If you've seen the strategy guide you will be familiar with these. 13 laps of Fuji International Speedway, tyre wear at times 13, fuel at times 3. And we have both the racing medium and the racing hard tyres available, and the racing hard tyres are mandatory for this one, so we have to do at least one lap on those tyres. Again, if you watch the strategy guide you will be aware that there's sort of several ways to go about this race. You could do a one stop, you could do a two stop, you could do the no stop, and there's sort of certain variations in doing all the strategies as well. So in this first race that we're going to look at, I'm going to try what I believe is the fastest strategy for this race. That's starting on the racing hard tyres, going to lap 5 or 6 and then moving on to the mediums so you can finish the race on the quicker tyre. We're in the 2016 Lexus Group 2 car. The majority of the field is in the GTR. Does appear to be a slightly faster car than the Lexus, but as you probably know if you watch my videos of race reviews, I don't like to go in the quickest car. I like to sort of take something out a little bit different. So this race is now underway. We are starting in 6th place. I think our qualifying time is a 1 minute 30.2. We've since improved that to a 129.9, but the 130.2, good enough to start in 6th place. So coming into turn 1, obviously got to take it very careful, more careful than that Spanish driver there. It's easy to get on the throttle just a bit too eagerly coming out of turn 1 and spin off, as you've seen from that driver there. And another driver is going to get it wrong as we come out of turn 2. So a pretty good start to this race, as we said, up 2 places. Just from drivers making mistakes. We're on the hard tyre, so we should be strong towards the end of the race. But this is where things are going to start going wrong. So we get a little bit of a dive down the inside into turn 4. I was kind of expecting these kind of things. I'm of course on the hard tyre. Some of the drivers around me are going to be on the medium tyre, so I was aware I was going to come under pressure in the early stages of the race. And the sort of plan here was that in the first couple of laps we definitely weren't going to try to get involved in any unnecessary fights. Just let these drivers, if they're on the quicker tyre, get past us, lose the minimal amount of time, and hopefully the strategy should be good enough to sort of make these places up before the end of the race. So coming towards the end of lap 1 here, coming into the sort of very tricky third sector, very sort of Mickey Mouse turns, very frustrating, but also very easy to get wrong and lose a lot of time. So just always got to I always try and stay a little bit below the limit in that third sector, no point sort of having a spin out when it just isn't worth it. So down the main straight we come. We've got the Portuguese driver behind us. He's been on the medium tyre. He's got a good slipstream of us. The slipstream just is a little bit too strong in my opinion. We don't try to fight it at all. We sort of give the Portuguese driver plenty of room, try to turn in, but he does stop on the apex, and we put a little tap into his backside, and we pick up that 1 second penalty that we seen was so common in the recent penalty video. So what was looking like a good start, making up 2 places, has turned into a little bit of a disaster. Though just jumping forward here, 2 serving that penalty, and that's going to lose us. I think we lose 3 positions in the end, so we go from, I think we're 5th place down into 8th place. But all is not lost. We're still on a pretty good strategy and we're not that far off the lead, and we can see plenty of the drivers are not too far ahead of us. So just forget that penalty and let's get on with this one. So as we move into lap 3, I was aware that all I had to do was just try and hang in there. The medium tyre runners in front of me, their tyres would start to give up grip. Our hard tyres would still be okay. And as you can see, that is exactly what's happened as we jump forward towards the end of lap number 4. We're going to try and make up a position here on the Spaniard who's ran wide out the chicane, but we don't quite get the job done. Spaniard still trying to fight it, and eventually as we come out the second last turn we make up the position up to 7th. So you can see the medium tyres are now starting to struggle. The hard tyres are just about starting to get to that crossover period where they can kind of match the medium tyres in terms of pace. Up into 7th place as we come to the end of lap 4, and we're going to make up another position as the Portuguese driver peels off into the pits. So it very much looks like they're on a 2-stop strategy. We've got the Spanish driver in our slipstream, and there's really not much we can do about it. The slipstream is just so powerful when you're in it that you're pretty much a passenger. Probably maybe should have tried to defend that, but I was kind of just trying to run my own race here. So I wasn't sure who would have the better grip at this point, but it's going to prove to be a little bit of a mistake. As you're going to see as this lap goes on, we definitely have more pace than the Spanish driver. So a mistake on my part not to defend that position, and I'm going to sort of pay the price for that over the course of this lap. As you're going to see, this Spanish driver is not too keen on getting overtaken. So we've got to be very careful as going around these corners. I know I've got better grip now. I'm going to be able to brake a little bit lighter, carry a little bit more speed in the corners, and I do not want to pick up another 1 second penalty. So we've got to run in towards the chicane. As you can see, the Spanish driver's going defensive. Gets it stopped just about. We're trying to sort of jink back and forward, try and find different lines. Get a little bit better on the accelerator here, but we're not close enough to go for a move. So again, we've just got to try and look after these tyres, take our time, respect the fact that the Spanish driver has got the racing line and the right to sort of take the track and the course as best they can, and sort of try not make any contact again. Just desperately try not to pick up any of these 1 second penalties. It could be so detrimental to your race. But we are now firmly in the slipstream here, and we're going to have another go at trying to pass this driver. Again, he goes defensive. This annoyed me a little bit because I wasn't making life very difficult for that driver, but he's definitely wanting to make life difficult for me. Get alongside. We'll try to sort of narrow his line as much as we can before we get to the braking zone. We are just about ahead. We have to leave room on the inside. Spanish driver's still there, and he actually manages to stay ahead of us. We're going to have a little bit of a look down towards turn 2, but it's not really an overtaking opportunity unless you're firmly alongside the other driver. But I'm feeling a little bit peeved off with his manners, so we do try and have a bit of a go. We go side by side, some nice racing actually, some nice racing room, but this is costing us a lot of time that we really don't need to be losing. Into turn 4, Spanish driver, you can just see he's really struggling for grip. I do believe he's on the hard tyres at this point as well. I did think he was on the medium tyres at the beginning of the race, but I think when we come up to the pit stop he is on the hard tyres. Going to look for the upside, and we've managed to jink him and fool him and make him miss his braking point. So that did feel quite good. As I said, I was clearly quicker. I know people don't race the same way as me, but I just think if you've got somebody behind you who's so much quicker, just let them past and try and run your own race. Anyway, we sort of get past just before we make our pit stop. We've made our pit stop. We come out on the medium tyres in 7th place, and we've got some nice clear track ahead of us. So we're going to do 7 laps on these medium tyres. We do need to be careful with them on the opening laps. Try not to sort of take too much life out of them. And a couple of laps later we have caught up with 4th and 5th place. We're now up into 6th place courtesy of a pit stop for one of the other drivers. And you can see we are much quicker than the German driver in front of us, Matthias Bauer. So we're not trying to do anything too fancy or clever here. We're just going to try and get the move down, done down the straight, stay in the slipstreams, come out this corner here. Unfortunately, just because we've got so much more grip, we actually come out just a little bit too close, but we do manage to sort of come out with a slight bit of overspeed to get alongside the German driver. Portuguese driver is going to pit, which actually works out nicely for us. It gives us a little bit of slipstream, and you can see we're now side by side coming down into turn 1. Now I believe at this point the German driver had given us one up, so I didn't really try and push the braking point too much into turn 1, and the driver actually pulls off an absolutely fantastic move round the outside of me. Makes me look a little bit silly because I've clearly got better grip than him, but as I said, I believe that he's kind of given the move up, given the position up and wasn't going to fight it. That is kind of, as I said, made me look a little bit silly. My sort of problem there, I believe, is that I think other drivers drive like me. I think if I'd been the German driver, I'd have given that one up and just let myself have the position. But no, he's entitled to fight, and as I said, he did actually pull off a fantastic move around the outside. Now we did bump the German driver into turn 2, probably deserved a 1 second penalty for that one, but we didn't get it. So it's just one of these things, I think, with these penalties, you know, it's very easy to moan about the penalties you get, but nobody ever really moans about the penalties you don't get. So my sort of opinion, these things tend to even themselves out, and if you tend to be a clean driver and a courteous and respectful driver, it'll work out in your favour. You're going to sort of probably get away with more penalties than you'll pick up. And to be honest with you, other drivers are going to sort of pick up more penalties than you, and you end up getting a sort of net gain in terms of how much you gain out of sort of the dodgy penalties. Coming into the last turn, out of the last turn, we are now firmly in the slipstream here. We got a much better run. We were slightly further behind coming out the last corner, so we've got much more speed coming down the straight, and by the time we get to the braking zone, we're actually going to be ahead of Matthias. Not going to make the same mistake here. We're going to brake nice and late. As you can see, we don't quite make the apex. Gives a little bit of trouble on the run down to lap 2 because Mateus has still got his nose of his car alongside us, so we can't use the full width of the track. That's not any problem, we've got much better grip. Get the car stopped nicely into 100R, and that is job done up into 4th place. And to be honest with you, that was pretty much the end of this one. We're just going to jump forward to the end of lap 30. We came under a little bit of pressure from the 5th placed Spanish driver. That was the driver we were fighting with early on in the race. They pitted a lap later than us and had slightly better tyres and kind of managed to get within a second of us, but we kept the tyres alive nicely, so we keep the lap times fairly consistent throughout the second stint. Didn't set the world on fire there, that's for sure, in terms of lap time. And despite the errors at the beginning and the penalty, we still managed to sort of make up a couple of places and pick up a 4th place. And as I said, I do believe that is the best strategy in the race, is the hard tyres onto the medium tyres. Again, you're going to come under some pressure at the beginning, you just have to kind of make do with that the best you can, lose as little time as possible, don't fight any unnecessary battles with the medium runners over the first few laps, and the strategy should come to you. So moving on to race number 2, we're still in the Lexus. And we're going to try a slightly different strategy here. We're starting on the medium tyre, and the plan here was we were going to try and do the 2-stopper. Now, as I said in the strategy guide, the 2-stopper does have its issues in terms of it's fairly quick if you've just got clean track, you can just run your laps, but as soon as you hit some traffic, you start to lose a bucket load of time. And this race is going to be a fairly good example of that. So starting this one in 7th place this time, a few more drivers in the lobby. And we're going to make up a position very quickly into turn 1. Spanish driver in front of us, I'm pretty sure is on the hard tyre. Certainly doesn't have the traction out of the first corner. And we're fully ahead as we come into turn number 2. I wasn't sure what his intentions were there, but I just turned in like he wasn't there. I pretty much had decided, I felt I was ahead, it was my position. And it was up to the Spanish driver to back out, which they did. And the driver in front of us has now picked up a 1-second penalty. So it's looking good to make up another position early in this race. So fast forwarding through the rest of this lap, as you can see we just sort of stay with the Spanish driver. Has a little bit of trouble into the last corner. As we come out, it's going to serve that 1-second penalty, and that's going to move us up into 5th place. And as we come a little bit further down the straight, another Spanish driver, PR1 Ponce, has obviously suffered a penalty of some sort. And we're going to take that position as well. Another fellow driver in the Lexus, which was very rare to see anybody in anything other than the GTR, so that was nice to see we were not alone in the Lexus. So up into 4th place in this one, and as I said, we were planning on running the 2-stop strategy, so things were looking pretty good at this point. So we were kind of just going to fast forward again a little bit more here towards the end of lap number 2, and we're sort of seem to be able to comfortably stay with this Spanish driver in the sort of rather garish livery. Onto the straight we come, we're in the slipstream, can we get the move done down into turn number 1? I don't think the Spanish driver has got the slipstream of the car in front, so we're definitely going to be in position to make the move. You can see just how much he close up in the slipstream once it takes full effect. Kind of take a look to the right there to try and fool him and totally miss our braking point, unfortunately. Now we realised very early we'd missed our braking point, so we didn't make any sort of silly attempts to turn in and ruin the tyres. Just a little bit of a tip there, if you've realised you've missed your braking point, just accept that you're going to run wide, get the car slowed down properly, and don't waste your tyres or ruin your tyres trying to sort of slide it in or back it in. You'll lose a lot less time that way, not only in how you get the car stopped, but just in terms of saving your tyres. So after that mistake we regrouped and we have caught up back to the Spanish drivers in front of us who are going side by side through the chicane. We'll get a bit of a concertina effect there. Ruben tries to get on the throttle a bit too early. We take a look up the inside, but we get the door slammed in our face, and then we get on the throttle a little bit too excitedly. Sort of spin the back end up, and as we regain the car we lose 5th position to another Spanish driver. So we're now back down in 6th place. We were up in 4th place, we would have been up in 3rd place because we were ahead of PR1 Ponce there. But a couple of silly mistakes has put us down in 6th place. And I'm never happy making one mistake in a race. Now we've made 2 mistakes. I'm particularly not happy with how this race is unfolding at this point. Again, like the last race though, when we got the penalty, all is not lost. We're still in 6th place and we've still got the potential for a half decent result. The Spanish drivers going side by side into turn number 1. Not really a whole lot of room there though for us to try and take advantage. In fact, all this is really going to do is hold us up, and it's going to sort of slowly allowing the driver in 7th place to close up on us, and we know they are on the hard tyre and going to be quite strong towards the end of the race. Coming through 100R, think about taking a look down the inside of Ruben here, but he sort of makes his intentions clear that he's going to defend that one. Again, we got the run out of turn number 4, slightly ahead here, but Ruben has the inside line. It's going to be very difficult to get the move made here. Try to brake nice and late. Ruben tries to brake even later than us, gets the job done, but all this is just costing his lap time, corner after corner. Into this kind of section here, the Mickey Mouse section towards the end of the lap. It's pretty much single file here, unless you have a massive speed advantage over the car in front. Ruben sliding it all about the place, definitely struggling on these tyres. I think he's got dirt on the tyres as well. And look at the gap opening up to P number 4 there, as we just cannot find a way around. He's doing everything right to defend it. He's kind of keeping the car nice and slow on the apexes there. That means I can't do very much about that, and that is absolutely fine, totally legal in racing. And we decide to go into the pits, as does the 2 drivers in front of us. So this is going to move on to the hard tyres here. I'm going to do 1 lap in the hard tyres, and then we're going to come back in for another set of mediums. Rejoining the race in 9th place, and we sort of skip forward here towards the end of this lap on the hard tyres. The Portuguese driver's on very worn mediums or hard tyres, so quite easy for us to sort of throw up the inside into the last corner. Puts up into 9th place, and we are going to pit at the end of this lap and take on another set of mediums. I'm going to do a 7 lap stint on the mediums, so we should be pretty strong towards the end of this one. So into the pits we come. Mediums selected, no fuel required. Always makes me laugh a little bit, that wee fuel man always runs towards the car. It's never required. And out we come, and this is going to be crucial as to where we rejoin the track. So we've got a car just behind us there. We do manage to get out in front of the Swiss driver. We've got the Portuguese driver that we passed on the lap before. We were on the hard tyres. I don't know what tyres he's on, but he still seems to be very slow. So towards the end of the lap we pass him into the same corner, and we're in the slipstream of the blue GTR of the Spaniard. In a little bit of a slipstream down the main straight, the Spanish driver is going to peel off into the pits. And that's another position made up here. Now the Portuguese driver is from in our slipstream. They had no intention of making an overtake here, and I would say a little bit of a tip: if you're behind a driver in the slipstream, you've got no intention of making the move, then just pull out of the slipstream, and that will give the sort of driver ahead a much better idea that you're not intending making the move. If you just keep closing up and getting to within 2 tenths of a tenth, a kind of fair chance you're going to sort of scare the driver in front into thinking you're going to go for a move, and they might go defensive, and that's just going to both cost you time. So just something that I tend to do if I'm not intending making an overtake is I'll use the slipstream to close up to a certain part, and then I'll just kind of pull out so that maybe about 3-4 tenths behind, just to signify to the driver I am not about to make a dive bomb. So we close up on this German driver. We close him down by over a second in about 3 corners. This driver also wants to fight with us. Again, I'm not saying the German driver is not entitled to do that. I just think if I've closed you up by a second in 4 corners, I'm clearly quicker than you. You're clearly on a different strategy. You're not really racing me. You're just costing yourself lap time, and possibly costing yourself to get caught by the drivers that you are actually in a race with. We throw up the inside there into the penultimate corner. German gives us the room, and we're up into another position. So skipping forward here to lap number 10. Now we're in 6th place, and we're sort of slowly catching PR1 points, but the bigger problem we've got is the driver in 7th place has been catching us over the last couple of laps, and the tyres are feeling very, very second hand. I think probably the battling to get past the Portuguese driver and the German driver has maybe taken the best out of the tyres, so we're going to try something a little bit different here. So there's still 3 laps to go. We're going to lose this position anyway, and I could see a gap on the track, and I thought it might be worth it flying into the pits and taking on another set of medium tyres. We're actually going to make a 3rd pit stop here, because we're going to lose that position anyway down into turn 1. The Spanish driver definitely seems to have the edge on us in pace, courtesy of better tyres due to a later pit stop, and I don't think they had to battle when they had their tyres on. Unfortunately, we didn't quite sort of see that gap correctly. I thought I'd come out in front of these 2 cars, and just be able to try and chase down the Spanish drivers, but we come out behind Matthias Bauer and the Spanish driver in the blue GTR. We get one of them dispatched straight away as kind of they battle side by side into turn 1, so that was definitely a positive. And now we can chase down Mika in the blue GTR. If we're coming into turn number 4, you can see we've got a massive amount of grip extra over the Spanish driver. And again, it's one of these ones I'm thinking to myself, you know, I've closed up on you this quickly. Why are you really battling with me? But again, he's entitled to defend, but if we sort of dummy him into going too deep, sort of cut back, give him space on the inside for that corner there, and it's actually a very, very nice overtaking manoeuvre, even if I do say so myself. Now, of course, we had a massive tyre advantage, which was a lot of why we were able to pull that move off. But again, it's just cost us a little bit too much lap time here, and I don't think we're going to have enough time on the track to try and catch up with the Spanish driver in front of us. We give it a bit of a go. We get to within about 1.5 seconds, but we run out of laps to sort of make up any further positions. So just kind of shows you the 2-stop. Well, this was a 3-stop to be honest with you, but the 2-stop, or the sort of the more pit stops you make, you just run into that traffic. It just makes your life very difficult, and it's why the 1-stop is just the better strategy for this one. So a couple of races there. Hopefully they've been fairly entertaining. Certainly had a little bit of everything. Some good battling. A lot of unnecessary, in my opinion. A couple of nice overtakes by myself, and a couple of nice overtakes done on myself as well. 4th position for the first race, 7th position for the second one. Not a bad couple of races. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing in the channel. It's very much appreciated. We are gradually, slowly but slowly getting towards the 1,000 subscriber mark, so if you could maybe sort of help me get those numbers up a little bit, that would be greatly appreciated. But thank you very much for watching this one. As I said, hope you've had some entertainment out of it. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.